Hello and welcome. This is the VCD Roundtable number 51, and today's topic is why we at least think that CSPs should take advantage of the market opportunity of AI. So today's talk is not going to be so much around how a CSP can potentially utilize AI, but more about the fact how can they offer AI for their customers and why we think that makes any sense. But before we get started, let's welcome everybody who is joining today's session, throwing the ball over to Tobias.
Hello and welcome to episode 51. Good to be back after short absence, a couple of weeks. Yeah, and happy to talk about AI. Sasha.
Yes, also welcome from my side. Let's talk about AI. That's an important topic for the future if you want to stay in the service provider program and if you want to find customers, because more and more customers are asking for all of the AI stuff. Matthias.
Yeah, also welcome from my side here as always, and looking forward what you guys are sharing today.
Okay, so I thought because you actually renamed yourself already that you are actually, or is that maybe the AI system? I'm actually blaming AI now for every mistake my computer makes. It's like every time it closes Outlook, it's basically the AI system actually trying to give me a clear sign that I should focus on something else. Makes my life a lot easier.
But honestly, in German we have a phrase like a computer helps to solve problems we wouldn't have without them. Maybe AI is just the next stage to this road journey to somewhere.
Maybe. So let me set the stage for today quite for a bit. So we are living in, I would say, a very interesting times, nearly daily changes on who actually imposes tariffs and all kinds of other things on everybody else, which has clear implications how corporations are deciding where to host their data or where not to host their data. However, we started the whole AI discussion with many CSPs already a couple of months ago, where the discussion was more around the topic that customers are getting more and more curious about what happens to their data. Where in the past we had with data sovereignty, we had a lot of the discussion more around the fact is like, yeah, I want to make sure from a privacy whatsoever perspective that my data is not in the US or in Europe, and that not the US government can actually get access to my data, because potentially they might do something with the data or give someone else an advantage. The risk factor, which more and more corporations see nowadays, so the end customers of our service providers, is the challenge is like, what if, let's say, one of the hyperscalers is actually training their AI system with my data on how we build machinery, on how we support customers, how we write designs, or anything else. How can I actually be sure that if they train my tenant of the AI engine, that learned knowledge, even if it's only the procedural pieces, are not actually going to be applied to any of the other AI engines, which then actually favor my competitor. So there is no longer just the demand of data sovereignty for protecting myself against a misbehaving government organization somewhere. The threat is now being seen by more and more customers. It's like, how do I handle that if the trained system is actually going to do something with my data? Which then, when we take it from there, brings up not a complete new, but actually an intensive business model for smaller or local service providers, which can solve these problems, especially for smaller and medium-sized customers who cannot afford to buy their own GPU stack, who cannot afford to build all the infrastructure. But it also brings up a lot of challenges for these CSPs, because from my personal point of view, and I'm going to talk about that intensively on a few conferences in the next couple of months with keynotes, is the challenge is just providing the hardware or the baseline as a service CSP is not going to be good enough. You need to also help the customers potentially with the data services. You need to provide additional services on top of that. because just hardware as a service or infrastructure as a service is not good enough. That being said, that's enough for me from an intro perspective. Toby was nodding the whole time, so throwing over the ball to him for now.
Thanks for that. No, you just mentioned perfectly. That's the reason why we are talking about private AI already. So many customers, many end customers from a CSP perspective, clearly referring that they say, hey, I'm not available that a hyperscaler AI or a public reachable AI, you call it, you name it, is learning my highly confidential production data and how we can produce stuff and how we can support our internal teams with AI, and we are not available to share them with any kind of other competitors, and also not with a public available learning engine. So that's the reason why private AI has been introduced and why it more and more becomes interesting that service providers need to be capable of providing private AI. But also on the other hand, what you're referring to, it's not only that you need to have a stack in place where you can say, hey, okay, I can offer you an AI space. You need also to be capable of supporting your customer, how he can involve in the whole AI story, and maybe also then bring in additional components around containers, around the whole engines behind AI, that this is the part where the customer comes in and says, okay, I need a solution, how we can introduce a chatbot, for example, for our internal development team, that they can ask their question, that they can get support there. That's the whole story, or the whole roadmap we see already, and we more and more should be capable of providing this to the customer.
And I think one of the interesting pieces is, which proves my point, which I made several times in the last couple of years on the whole data sovereignty discussion, is in the end, the customer is driving the decision. It is very obvious with the discussions we now have is that the majority of customers didn't care if potentially a US government might get access to their data. But now that we get to the point that it could mean that their competition gets advantage out of it, that someone else gets advantage out of it, all of a sudden it becomes a topic that, hey, I want to have my data local. I want to have it as nearby as possible, which again and again shows that the pure threat never really was so worrying for customers, and it should not actually. This is not to actually evaluate whether this is good or bad for customers, but it kind of proves the whole point is like, as long as you don't see the threat, and it also means customers are aware of the threat, because otherwise they wouldn't care now. But they didn't care if a potential other government would see it. But now this is a different story. Sasha.
Yeah, I think you covered all the points. So as a service provider, you need to take a look which category you want to start with. And I recommend for every service provider to, take a look how you can consume AI in the first place. Build your first AI infrastructure. Take a look at the complete container stuff, because that becomes now with AI more and more important. So most of the AI solutions based on Kubernetes, on container stuff, and needs to be rolled out, scaled in, because there are, depending on the AI topics you want to cover, they can expand to a lot of virtual machines. And most of the time, customers only need it for a few hours or a few days, and not over a complete month. So you need really to think about what are the topics that you want to cover, what are the timelines, what are your roadmap. You need to build your team around that, because that will not longer be the normal vSphere admin who will cover that Kubernetes stuff, and also who will cover the complete AI stuff. Because most of your customers will come to you and say, hey, I have or I want to work with AI. They have maybe no clue. Other customers will come to you and they, hey, I need an environment where I can run my virtual machines for AI stuff. I don't want to buy GPUs. Or I don't have the money. I only need it for a few hours in a month or every 2 months for a few hours. And then are all the different parts of the AI stuff where you need to figure out what are the right package for your customer to start with, what are the right packages to grow with your customers together. So I think that's important topics. Take a look, think about what your customer need, and start with how you can use the AI by yourself. So large language models. Train yourself how to train the LLMs with your information you currently have. Most of you will have a SharePoint server. Most of you will have a Confluence or many data, and you can feed this LLM with your informations. You can use it as a private AI, and then figuring out, for example, use it for your support. So put in all the knowledge space entries from Broadcom, put in other informations from Broadcom around that, an architecture guide, best practice design, and then take a look what happens. Because, for example, we did it for some testings, and we then, in a second step, put it in a purple screen from a vSphere. And they get clearly out, hey, we have found this knowledge base entries with this information. That are the next steps you need to do to solve this problem. So that's a very easy first step.
And what I would like to add, Sasha, because you're 100% on the right way. But what I would like to add here is also you mentioned already the kind of support, but also adding support for your customers that they can have a look how they can configure something in their VDC, how they can create VPN stuff and stuff like this, and get support out of it. Because this is a good starting point to build a framework, to set up a framework, how you quickly can support your customers without having the amount of tickets, without having anything around. And clearly the customer gets support. Hey, how can I set up a site-to-site VPN between from a tenant to my data center or to my on-prem location, whatever, and stuff like this. Would also be a good starting point.
Create your chatbot.
Yeah, chatbot. At the end, it is
Easy
a chatbot.
enough.
Yeah.
Yes, enlighten us.
No, I just would like to throw some different thoughts into the equation, because I like all the approaches and ideas they come up with, but as a CSP, from my point of view, we should not start with ask the customers what they would like to have in terms of AI or private AI, however you name it. I could name my AI site, for example, but no, just kidding. So I think as a CSP, even if you start with a new topic like private AI, you should start to build a product of which you think your customers might need it. And that drives standardization. If a CSP again starts to talk with all the customers, every single customer might come up with a different idea of private AI consumption they would like to have. And then there is no standardization, no automation, no standardization and automation. It's a nightmare to troubleshoot the infrastructure. So I think, again, product and packaging is key to achieve a manageable infrastructure. Because if I can't manage the infrastructure for my customers, I can't offer a stable product. If the product is not stable, customer is not satisfied, no customer satisfaction, and so on and so forth. So I think we should not take that part out of the equation. Private AI offers a huge, broad, possible range of products to build. And again, what we saw in the past, so where did we start with, for example, with NSX? So we had NSX, and then NSX offered tons of different networking features. And we convinced the CSPs, guys, please do not offer everything because you can't manage it. So I think it's the same approach we should take with private AI, starting at, guys, this is the broad range we have of possible products and packagings. So which single product solution might cover 60% of your customers or even 50%. So that's a big bunch of customers you can cover with. And then you start coming up with the second product and so on and so forth. So I think we should stick with the old approach, even though we're talking about a fancy new topic.
That's right. That's one approach. I also, the other ones where you clearly can ask some customers, because there are a lot of customers still working with AI, working with hyperscalers, working on local computers with AI, fighting with AI, I would say, in some cases. But I want to primarily add one more idea. So I think for all of the customers from the service providers who are new on the AI stuff, maybe you are able to build a lab or a small environment to showcase what's possible with AI. Go with your head around what are the different scenarios of AI you can cover as a service provider, and showcase the customer what does it means in their environment. So have a small environment where you can say, hey, you can log in, you can work with some stuff, can have some sample labs where you can say, hey, put in your informations and you will get that output. So how to learn LLMs, whatever. So I would say a lot of customers still working with AI, but also a lot of other customers don't have any clue about AI. They heard about AI and don't know what's to do with AI, or what they can do, or what they can cover with AI.
And I think the one of the other points we had discussions about with the CSPs lately at the events, like in Hamburg, for example. I think the biggest mistake you can do if you take the decision on that you want to go on the AI journey, that you start too small. Because in reality, you will not get away with just buying 2 GPUs and then hoping that everything is going to work out and that is going to be enough for your customer base or anything like that. You either really build a dedicated cluster for these scenarios with enough hardware, with enough CPU power, with enough memory and everything else, or you leave it alone. This is because in the end, the customers will, once the customers figure out what they want to do, they are quickly going to burst workloads up. And as they are bursting workloads up, you cannot actually come back and say, it's like, yeah, sadly, it's going to take now 3 months until we have the next GPUs available, because at that point in time, customers are going to be on the move. And so all of that being said, it's like, this is not something you can just actually say, we are slowly going to try this out. Because there will be others who are actually going to compete with you. Because what you need to keep in mind, we have in the service provider space, especially in Europe, we have a few service providers which come out of the gaming industry, which most of the infrastructure service providers have absolutely not on their radar, because they were not seen as a competition over the last couple of years. All of a sudden, these are the guys who have very good contracts already with NVIDIA. They are known for having access to cards and everything else. And in many cases, they also have the budget for it. So if they want to start, they are most likely going to start with hundreds of hosts or something like that. So I'm not saying that you need to go that extreme, but just setting up 2 nodes with each 1 GPU most likely is not going to be good enough. I mean, that's nice as a playground, but not as a starting point. So if you want to go down this journey, it's like your team can actually train themselves up with whatever they can do on a local MacBook, or if you want to have something a bit more fancy, give them a Mac Studio or something like that. When you look out on the internet, people have gotten fantastic results with that one. And then once they have the knowledge and everything else, in the parallel, start designing your hardware infrastructure and then build it. If you're not owning the physical data center, speak to the data center first and talk about energy and cooling, because the whole game we are discussing here is a bit like in the old blade chassis world. It's like, I remember back in those days where everybody is like, great, I actually have my cage. I can finally squeeze in 4 times as many hosts as I could before. Up until the point where the data center operator caught you and said, it's like, there is an amps and temperature limit per rack. You cannot actually squeeze all blade chassis in there. So, and that is more or less even worse with the current GPU scenario. So you need to plan for that as well. If you own the data center, the physical one, you should also plan for it. It's not necessarily easy. But all of these are things, and there will be a huge demand, because in the end, when you see already what people are building already with AI agents and everything else, it's like, this is going to be a heavily competing market in the future, and especially in the, let's say, low-hanging fruit jobs when it comes down to call center agents and stuff like that. When you already demo out what new AI call centers actually look like and how they work. I'm honest, instead of calling up any of the airline hotline desks or anything like that, I rather want to actually talk to one of the AI agents by now, because they are far better, and actually they are happy with their job. And they don't come across like, it's like, oh, another one of these customers, I really hate my job. It's like, no, they are always happy and cheery, and it's really fun. The last one I played around with actually made jokes during the call. So they are really getting so natural that it's getting very, very hard to identify them. Good. Anything we missed out? I mean, clearly VMware has a solution for that, which you can buy by core per core. We missed that part. But I mean, you could, in theory, even build it yourself. You're not bound to do that. But the question is, if you really want to build up all the knowledge, it's, as always, it's like you can build all of that with open source just on your VCF core stack. Or you can actually at least get off the first few stages by buying it prepackaged. So that's going to be the point. The other important part is not for our challenge days in May, maybe for the challenge days in June, but latest for the ones after our challenge days summer break, which are going to be, I think, in September, October, somewhere around that. Those challenge days will they will have AI modules in them. The ones before the summer break are up for discussion and up for validation, how far we can get up until then. We might have demos or something else, but it's going to be added to the challenge days, and we will keep clearly everybody posted on which one will be the first challenge days, which will have AI included into it. Good. Anything else we missed? Any other important news in the industry? I mean, Sasha, you keep smiling as if you have something to say.
You can again buy 16 cores standard vSphere, so everyone in Europe is happy.
You could, in theory, buy them in Europe and ship them to the US then.
Yeah.
Only until someone puts tariffs on top of it.
Yeah, but then we have maybe taxes on it.
Yeah, we don't want, or fees. It's like our new government program we have in Germany in place. It's like, we don't get new taxes, we only get new fees and services and other things which we have to pay for. So
wait until they learn the nice term license.
Yeah, we never invite them here to Dubai.
Oh.
But we have.
They know the term license already. We did that for mobile phone frequencies for many years. So the generic concept of licenses is applicable. So don't get them started. It's like they create enough chaos already. So nevertheless, I would then say, or Toby, did you have anything to add before we close?
Nope.
Okay.
Not much.
So the topic for the next VCD roundtable, we know already. So we are getting better. We actually have a plan. The topic for the next one is going to be HCX and VCD. Is it a go or a no-go? We will not unveil this beforehand, but we are going to make that the topic of the next VCD roundtable, which we record, I think, in 2 weeks' time. And we keep you posted up until then. With that being said, happy Easter, everybody. We hope to get everything out before the Easter break anyway. And see you then in VCD Roundtable 52 again. Sasha.
Yes, so take a look at AI, take a look what's possible, join us for the next challenge days, and have a nice Easter week. Toby.
Yes, thanks for joining. Happy Easter, and see you in the next episode. Matthias.
Yeah, famous last words. Stick with building blocks, as Yves mentioned. Don't try to squeeze GPUs somewhere into a host. It's not working. Doesn't make any sense. And happy Easter from my side, and Blue X, how we say it, right?
Thank you. Bye.